I want to kind of start back to your childhood and kick it off with, what did your mom and dad do growing up for a living?
My mother was a special education teacher, and my dad was the driver's ed teacher and head football coach, all at the same school. They've since changed the name to Hancock County High School. It was a small school. Again, 1st through 12th, you don't see a lot of those anymore. So my first grade class was 100 yards from senior classes. Graduated with about 100 in my class. And so as far back as I remember.
What was life back with your siblings? Any sibling rivalry?
We were always playing something. And when our sister was born, poor thing, she made 2 on 2.
Oh, man.
But yeah, we had typical sibling rivalries. But I know, like my older brother, I looked up to him tremendously. And he was a really good football, baseball, and basketball player, which I didn't play basketball, but we played on our high school baseball team. I was an 8th grader and he was a junior, and we both started on the high school baseball team together. We didn't have a very good baseball team, but we were good baseball players. Me and
What
my
position did you play?
I played every position, but first base and center field. So I pitched. I would say I was a shortstop and a pitcher more than anything, but I played third. I take that back. I didn't play. There was 3 positions: first, second, and center field. I didn't play.
So when you get drafted, you got to get a contract. And I was lucky enough to meet your agent. And, you referred to him as family, Bus Cook.
Yeah.
What was, talk me through the process of getting in contact with Bus.
Well, Bus lived here in Hattiesburg. I met him in college. He was not a sports agent. He was a local attorney. He just happened to be, at the time, the best amateur golfer in the state. He had won numerous times. Bus was probably 48, 49. I was not a golfer. I didn't own clubs. Yet. So at the time, there was only one golf course at Hattiesburg Country Club. They used to play a PGA event there. Great course. I could care less. I didn't know it existed, to be honest with you. But a friend of ours that we grew up with, his father was coming through town. I can't remember if he was going to work or coming back from. And this was way before cell phones. So he had reached out to my brother, I guess called the apartment or something, and said, "Hey, I got us an opportunity to play at Hattiesburg Country Club if you guys want to play. You had to play with a member. That was the only way you could get on." So the member happened to be Bus Cook. So I borrowed his clubs. I played absolutely awful, and he ridiculed me from the first hole to the end, just picking on me. I just met this man, and he was the biggest smart ass. We go in, 19th hole, we sit around, and I'm thinking, what a jerk this guy is. I have a few drinks. He starts doing card tricks. You never saw him do his card tricks and jokes. He's an entertainer, if there ever was one. He's doing these card tricks, and I'm amazed. And he's doing tricks where he's calling this number on the phone, and he's saying, "Tell these guys what their card is." And whoever's on the phone tells me, Queen of spades. And I'm like, we sort of became friends, and we would every once in a while he would grill steaks or something like that. We'd go by. But again, there was nothing. There was never. I never thought for 1 second that he would be my agent. I didn't even think agents, and
He
he
wasn't
never
an
did.
agent.
He wasn't an agent. So my senior year, I'm getting a lot of attention, and now I'm getting a lot of attention from agents. And it was really overwhelming. And they were offering you this and that, and I can do a great job for you. Here's my clients. And some of their clients were calling me, just pro athletes. And it was pretty cool. But it was overwhelming. And so one day I go to Bus and I said, Bus, would you want to be my agent? And he goes, for what? And I said, as I go play pro football. And he goes, well, I don't know anything about being an agent. And I said, I don't know anything about being a pro football player. And that's how it started. We've never signed a contract. We have been together for 30 years, actually a little bit longer, if you go back to when I first met him.
You were a young dad at 19 or 20
Yeah.
with Brittany. What
Yeah.
were some of the things you remember that, you loved about being a young dad, or some of the challenges?
Oh, it was tough. I thought, what in the hell did I get myself into? I mean, I'm 19. I got what I think is my whole career in front of me. Was I ready? Absolutely not. I had $0 to my name. I would ask my mom or dad for money, and they were like, where are we getting money? I'd work odds and end jobs in the summer for $150 or something. Brittany had a father who was there sometimes, but even when I was there, I wasn't there. I mean, our youngest daughter, I didn't drink. She never seen me drink. I've always been there, been a good dad. But at 19 years old, I mean, I'm still a kid myself. So she suffered from that, but she's a great kid.
With Mike Holmgren, you had Steve Mariucci, you had Andy Reid. Those were all coaches that, were with you early on in career. How much did they help you out early on?
Oh, tremendously. We had a tremendous staff. John Gruden, Steve Mariucci, Andy Reid, several guys that you probably would. Dick Duran was the defensive guy. He was the head coach for the Bears for 2 years. Ray Rhodes, who ended up being head coach in Green Bay for a while. Marty Morningwig was my third quarterback coach, who was the head coach of Detroit. Those guys were different. Mooch was kind of the one who set the standard. We got along so well. I loved him. And in 3 years, he was a young guy, first time in pro football, full of energy. And he lived like 2 doors down. He had young boys. I would babysit them. We were just family.
Yeah.
And then he, like one night, calls me and says, I'm taking a Cal job. And man, tears were flying. He was a great coach, and I don't want to say he wasn't a disciplinarian, but he was able to get my full attention in a loving and fun way. But I spent all my time with Mooch. Then Mooch leaves. So Andy was our tight end coach. I loved Andy, but I never in my wildest dreams thought he was going to be the quarterback coach. He was an O lineman at BYU, Kent Johnston. He's kind of a liaison between the trainer and the strength coach. Kent at the time had 3 boys, and that they since have 4. And me and Deanna, we'd always spend our time over at their house or vice versa. They live right down the road. We'd always cook and watch Thursday night football. Well, he thought like I did. He knew what would flip my switch. So for my birthday, he bought me a fart machine because he thought he'll love this. And I still have it today. So I'm going to break it out. We're playing Chicago. We get on the bus. Kent's already sitting down. He's 4 or 5 rows back behind Holmgren. Lee Rimmel is like 2 behind Mike and 2 in front of Kent. Same deal every week. I go, I get it. I'm getting on the bus. Hey, Mike, how you doing? So as I walk, it's dark. So as I walk by Lee, I set the machine down like I dropped something. I reached down, I put it on top of his bag and had the remote control in my hand. So I sit down by Kent, show him the remote, and he's trying his best not to laugh, and he's making these awful sounds. And I'm hitting button after button, and it's like, making all, and no one knew but me and Kent. And Lee, he could hear it, but he didn't like reach down. He didn't, but you had to know Lee, he was stone cold. He was never going to give anybody the courtesy of a good laugh. But before we got to Soldier Field, you could see Holmgren was like, he never turned, but he was laughing. And I don't know to this day if he thought he was really doing it or if I was playing a joke, but I know it got him to laugh.
When you talk about teammates, you played with, thousands of players over the years. Who was the most athletic player you played with that also played against?
Oh, there's no question. Deion Sanders. He took me under his wing. Went out of his way, talked to me, put his arm around me. And I'm like, why me? And we have been close friends ever since, but no question, a game changer like no other.